Katja, why not?
Hi everyone. So spring has finally sprung. There is sunshine out the window. The birds are really happy. I have been working today, so I've been mostly looking at that sunshine from inside, but I have now been for a walk. The days are longer, so it's going to take a very long time to get dark. It just makes you feel really positive, especially because this week the UK has relaxed some of the restrictions with lockdown, and up to 6 people can meet up. So that's, things that people can look forward to, not having to just be in your own home bubble. And just feels good, positive. Anyway, on to books. In this video I share my April PoP, which is my pile of possibilities. Before I do that, I want to do a shout out to channels that are less than a year old, because I've come across some really good ones this month. And the first one is DryBooks. She's less than a week old, or her channel is, not she, but her channel is less than a week old, and I will link to her channel in the video description below, as I will for all of the other people I shout out. Alexander Reads, who is a new Nigerian booktuber, and I enjoyed his recent book review for The Fisherman by Chigozie Obioma. In that video he actually references the next person that I want to give a shout out to, and that is The Reading Mushroom. Laura is a booktuber in Germany, and I really enjoyed one of her recent videos in which she provides a basic outline for her ideal book. So if you're an author struggling to come up with a book idea, check out that channel. I was, just really fascinated by the detail that Laura went into with what would be her ideal book. So she provides a full framework, plot, world building. It was fascinating. Next up is Shannon and a Book, and Shannon's recently gotten into reading. It's a newfound love, and she's also a fan of Star Trek newly, as a result of getting into Star Trek Discovery. So, fellow Trekkie, perfect. Tea Drinking Reader. This is hosted by Antje, and I always find that her books are presented so thoughtfully after she's read them, and if she's liked a particular book, it makes me want to actually pick that book up as well. Those are my shout outs, so if you feel like spreading some booktube love, why not check them out? And on to my PoP. First up is The Disordered Cosmos by Dr. Chanda Prescod-Weinstein. In this book, she shares her love for physics, from the standard model of particle physics and all that lies beyond it, to the physics of melanin in skin, to the latest theories of dark matter, all with a new spin informed by history, politics, and the wisdom of Star Trek. So, of course it appealed to me when I read that. On a more serious note, this book urges us to recognize that the science of the cosmos, of space and physics, is just as rife as every other science field, with sexism and racism and dehumanizing systems. She lays out a bold new approach to science and society that begins with the belief that we all have the fundamental right to know and love the night sky. The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. This is book 1 in the Rook and Rose trilogy by Marie Brennan and Alec Helms, writing together as M.A. Carrick. And it follows Wren, a con artist with one goal: to trick her way into a noble house and to secure her own fortune and her sister's future. But as she's drawn into this elite group, she realizes that her masquerade is just one of the many surrounding her. And as nightmare magic begins to weave its way through the city of dreams, the poisonous feuds of its aristocrats and the shadowy dangers of its impoverished become entangled with Wren at their heart. This sounds like a really easy fantasy book to lose myself in every now and then, so I thought that was worth a go. Hopefully I'll like it, and then I can get into the whole trilogy. Next up is Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, and tells the story of Klara, who is an artificial intelligence, and gets us to then question what it means to be human, because my understanding is that in this futuristic world we've got AIs who are able, like Klara, to make these calculations that are quite feeling based, whereas we are sort of evolving to be a little bit more logical, and it's that balance of where humanity is. It says Klara is a thrilling book that offers a look at our changing world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator, and one that explores the fundamental question, what does it mean to love? The Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winters. So this is book 2 in the series The Burning, and it is the sequel to Rage of Dragons, which I was surprised that not everyone on Booktube was raving about, because there were mixed reviews, and that's because people can have differing opinions, and some people just thought, it was, a 3 or 2 rating. I don't do ratings, but suffice to say that I really loved the first book, Rage of Dragons, and it inspired me to do my first video on Booktube. So I picked up Fires of Vengeance, looking forward to continuing with it, because I'm already halfway in. It just dives straight in. It's immediately vengeance. So the Fires of Vengeance is vengeance right away. It picks up exactly where you left off with book 1. And you've got the main character of Tyll working with the Queen to try and regain territory lost in book 1, and to overthrow usurpers who are embedded in the capital city. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. Number 5 is Out of the Silent Planet by C.S. Lewis. What a surprise to me that C.S. Lewis wrote science fiction. There's probably a bunch of people out there going, yeah, but I had no idea. I mean, I knew about Narnia. I knew that he wrote some theological style books as well, but I did not know that he wrote science fiction until I watched the announcement videos from Christy Lewis at Dostoevsky in Space and Victoria at A Musical Bookworm. Yeah. Totally surprised, but also enthralled, because I immediately got brave enough to sign up to my very first Discord. I had no idea what Discord was, and I kept putting it off because everyone would be like, come join our Discord, we're doing a read-along or readathon, and I'm like, I don't know what Discord is, and I'm not joining it. I'm like, what, C.S. Lewis does science fiction? I shall find out what Discord is. And it's so simple. It's just an app, and then it's a forum on a server. So simple. Why was I hesitating? But anyway, I digress. So he has written science fiction, and this is a read along of the trilogy, starting with book 1, Out of the Silent Planet. And what is that about? Dr. Ransom, a Cambridge academic, is abducted and taken on a spaceship to the red planet of Malacandra, which we know as Mars. His captors are plotting to plunder the planet's treasures and plan to offer ransom as a sacrifice to the creatures who live there. Ransom then discovers he has come from the Silent Planet, what we know as Earth. Number 6, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I had to check that because I keep getting confused with I think there's the 7 husbands of somebody Hugo, and I'm like, anyway, The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, also known as The 7.5 Deaths in the US. And I'm not sure why there's an extra half death in the USA, but I am intrigued to find out. And I'm buddy reading this at the end of April with Eliza Baum. It is an idea of sort of Groundhog Day meets Agatha Christie, locked in a room murder mystery, because you've got Evelyn Hardcastle being killed over and over again until our main character, Aidan Bishop, can break the cycle by actually finding out who's killing her. And it says Aidan Bishop needs to identify her killer and break the cycle, but every time the day begins again, Aidan wakes up in the body of a different guest at Blackheath Manor. It sounds really suspenseful, and I find that I've gotten more into mysteries and thrillers again this year. Number 7, The Keening by Margaret Pinard. Margaret is a fellow booktuber and is also on AuthorTube, so I will be linking her channel in the descriptions below. I've not read her books before, so I'm really interested to read this. This is book number 1 in the Remnants trilogy. And The Keening follows the MacLean's family, torn apart by the effects of war, who must now deal with the trickle-down effects of peace, which is ultimately the collapse of the kelp industry on which they are dependent. The tides of change follow the MacLeans as they flee their home in search of peace and security. But where will they find a new place to call home? And when will the keening end and their new lives begin? Number 8 is The Lady's Paradise by Emile Zola, and I'm reading this as part of a read-along that's hosted by Dancing Lawn. The Lady's Paradise recounts the rise of the modern department store in the late 19th century Paris. The store is a symbol of capitalism, of the modern city, and of the bourgeois family. It is emblematic of changes in consumer culture and changes in sexual attitudes and class relations taking place at the end of the century. I decided to read this after I had read High Wages by Dorothy Whipple, together with Margaret Pinard as part of March of the Moderns. And I didn't know that I was going to end up being interested in the history of retail, but I am, because High Wages followed a character who is in the early 1900s in England and her journey in retail, but it also has all of the themes that are mentioned in The Lady's Paradise, which is around, sexual attitudes, about gender, and about the influence of class. And I really enjoyed that, so I'd like to see how that then translates, having most of those key themes, but then slightly earlier, saying the late 1800s rather than early 1900s, and rather than being in the UK or England, being in Paris in France. So yeah, interested to see what that's like. And I'm even thinking about lining up another book. I've got my eye on something called Shop Girls, a book called Shop Girls, which I think is about retail and women in the 1950s in Cambridge. So I seem to be getting into that quite a bit. Number 9, Lessons in Stoicism by John Sellers. This is a pick of my non-fiction book club. And it says, what aspects of your life do you really control? What do you do when you cannot guarantee that things will turn out in your favour? And what can Stoicism teach us about how to live together? So I'm looking forward to finding out what the thoughts are on all of those themes. Number 10, Tyll by Daniel Keelman, and this is a pick from my fiction book club. It says, with dark humour and moving humanity, Daniel Keelman lifts this legend from medieval German folklore and enters him into the stage of the 30 Years' War. When citizens become the playthings of puppetry and politics, Tyll, in his demonic grace and his thirst for freedom, is a spirit of rebellion, a cork in the water, a laugh in the dark, a hero for all time. I have seen very mixed reviews for this book, but I am still very much looking forward to it. And that is my April PoP. So let me know what you thought of those titles, and if by coincidence you've read any of them or are currently reading them, let me know your thoughts. And even if you're not reading any of these, just let me know what you're reading. I might find my next title from what you recommend. Take care, and thanks for watching.